flower friends. Welcome back to the Flower Files, the podcast where we talk about growing flowers, building businesses, and creating a life filled with blooms. I'm your host, Liza, and flower farmer here at Wildly Native Flower Farm. Today's guest is someone who has truly changed the conversation around local flowers in the United States. I have the chance to sit down with Ellen Frost, the founder of Local Color Flowers, which is a floral hub based in Baltimore that connects flower farmers with florists throughout a regional wholesale marketplace. And what I love about Ellen's story is that she didn't just build a business, she built an entire system that helps local flowers thrive. We're going to talk today about how the local flower movement has grown, how farmers can access wholesale markets, the real logistics of running a floral hub, and what the future of American grown flowers looks like. If you've ever wondered how locally grown flowers move from farms to florists, this episode is going to open your eyes. So let's dive in. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Absolutely my pleasure. First things first, I always love to start folks off with their origin story because I know you probably didn't grow up saying, when I get bigger, I want to run a floral hub.
Nope.
So tell us, how did your path lead you into flowers and eventually into founding Local Color Flowers?
I moved to Baltimore in 1999. Prior to that, I had zero experience with flowers. I had not been to a farm. I didn't garden. I grew up in cities. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I lived in San Francisco. I just had zero connection to sort of nature in general. Um, And when I moved to Baltimore, I just bought a small row house and started gardening and enjoyed it and took the master gardening course here in Baltimore. And that was where I started to meet people that grew things for a living. That was the first time I had met people that were professional gardeners and professional farmers. And it was really fun, interesting work. And I started working on a farm here in Baltimore County just part time. My background is in affordable housing development and construction. So this was really just like a hobby um, that I was doing for fun, working at the farm and learning gardening. But the more I did it, the more I was like, oh, I kind of am into flowers and I like them more. And um, I was working at a farmer's market here in Baltimore, and the stall next to us was a flower farmer, John McEwen from Locust Point Flowers. And he was the first flower farmer that I met ever. And, so for however many seasons we stood next to each other at the farmer's market, John taught me about flowers, and I bought a lot of flowers from him. And my friends and I would buy flowers from him for our weddings and friends' weddings um and then
It's
it just got to the
amazing.
point where I was like, I would prefer to do this than build buildings. I loved affordable housing and community development work, but flowers were really of interest to me. And I learned pretty quickly that I didn't want to be a flower farmer. Farming was not a good fit for me because I didn't really like to be hot or cold or wet or dirty or uh, liked flowers and I liked farming. And really, what I wanted to do was try to connect the flower farming community that I was becoming part of and sort of our local community here in Baltimore with those flowers. Because at that time, 20 years ago, there was no real connection between those folks, especially for weddings and events. Um, you couldn't go to a florist then and ask for local flowers. You couldn't go to a farmer and ask for flowers for a wedding. So I just saw that there was sort of a disconnect there.
I don't
Uh,
think people understood. I don't think they knew who to talk to. I
yeah,
feel
I mean,
like
there was just no, it wasn't, we had, we can get into this later, but we had gotten to the point in sort of the floral sourcing journey of flowers that, 80% of the flowers sold in the US are imported, and that number has really not budged since, the 80s. And so most florists still today are buying from wholesalers, they're buying imports. And so for people who are looking for maybe not even just locally sourced flowers then, but because people didn't really even know what that was, but maybe a smaller footprint for their wedding, ecologically, sustainably. There just were not a lot of options for that. So we were trying to just make local flowers available to people who were getting married. And that was how we started, just as a wedding florist.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I think the gap in the floral industry has been fascinating to watch. As you
Hmm.
said, in the 80s, it was very like, I'm a florist. These are the flowers I have. This is what I'm doing. And today, obviously, everything changes and updates and shifts. But I definitely feel like the movement of local food spilled over into florals so that the language for it made more sense initially. Does that
Totally.
make sense?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think food was definitely in this phase of our sourcing journey, food was definitely a predecessor to flowers as um, a way to get people interested in learning where their food came from, who grew it, buying it from the people who grew it. So there was a little bit of a model there that I think flowers could definitely follow. One of the things I always like to remind people, or even tell people because maybe they don't know, but local flower sourcing, there's a rich history of local flower sourcing in the United States. We mostly because of need. But, we sourced flowers locally starting back, in colonial times. People were growing flowers locally and using them in their designs in their homes. And that continued for almost 200 years. Um, so the import piece, which really started in the mid 50s when international air flights became possible, when refrigeration had been advanced enough that perishable products could be flown across the world.
Yes.
And then into the 70s, when people started growing flowers around the equator, especially in South America, that period of imported flowers in the United States, at least, only has a maybe 50, 60, 70 year history. So, our local flower sourcing today is really a return to a way that we sourced for many, many, many years.
I think one of the things that you touched on is education. I think people just don't know. I don't think they understand.
Mhm.
You know, I think there's certain crops where they do understand. People know there's a peony season, period. They come in, they come out, and that's it. And it's
Mhm.
hard to get them outside of that season. And people are more aware of that. But I
Mhm.
feel like one of the things that you have done a yeoman's job in is that educational piece for people understanding, you know, not just how do I put this? It's not just local, it's also educating people as to what some of the flowers are. Everybody's like,
Mhm.
I love chamomile, and they show me a picture in their Pinterest, and I'm like, that's feverfew.
Mhm.
So so understanding things that are not a sunflower, a rose, or baby's breath, which I feel like are the top three flowers that people can identify if they're not flower literate.
Sure.
If you're an accountant, you're living in a box. You don't know much about flowers,
You're right.
but you can probably still pick out a rose, a sunflower, and baby's breath.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of education that goes into what we do. Flower identification is one piece of that, is just like what are flowers? And that's not just for consumers and flower buyers, that's for florists as well, because many florists who have, spent their careers buying from a wholesaler have had access to wholesale flowers. And while wholesale flowers are huge and there's, just tons and tons of varieties available, a lot of local flowers are not available through the wholesaler. And so people are not often familiar with the varieties that local flower farmers grow.
Right.
Um, the other piece is just like seasonality, and they go hand in hand. As what is seasonal, because again, both consumers and professional florists have not gotten used to, but we just have had no other
Right.
experience but buying things when we want them, no matter what, out of
Right.
season. They can come from wherever they are in the United States. While peonies are difficult to get out of season, you can get them.
Okay.
And so it doesn't allow people to understand those seasons. And a lot of it is just like a loss of generational knowledge, where, our grandparents or great grandparents probably had more of a idea of these things because they were, closer to them. So we do a lot of work around flower education, around seasonality, both for consumers and for florists. Um, and then we do a lot of work with designers to help them understand that while they may have come up on, recipes and exact flowers for exact designs, that you can be more flexible in your designs and using seasonal flowers. There is a way to do that and still be profitable and still be marketable. That isn't just, we have Gerbers year round, we have,
Right.
peonies year round, to really embrace what is seasonal and build a design aesthetic around that.
I still feel that with all of those pieces that were formed with the, better refrigeration, better transportation, and all of those things, they're amazing things, and I'm not taking anything from that. But as our technology also changed, you had the introduction of like FTD and I don't want to say cookie cutter because I understand that there's a place for all of it and everybody has a style. And it is
Sure.
nice to call someone and say, "My aunt is sick. I'm in Maryland. She's in Arizona. I would like flowers sent to her," and have an idea as to what it looks like. I
Sure.
understand the comfort in that.
Hmm.
But the reality behind that, the flowers that I'm growing in Maryland in September and the flowers that are available in Arizona in September are going to be totally different. And until people understand that, we're going to continue to have those cookie cutter kind of recipes because people want the smiley
Sure.
face mug
Right.
with the
I think
flowers
a lot
in
of
it.
it too is building, at least for individual designers, um, a lot of it is building trust with your customers, because once you do that, it's a lot easier to say, this is going to be a designer's choice seasonal design. Um, so it's a little bit easier. It's more difficult when you have one-off arrangements and things like that. That can be more difficult.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where that education piece is really important. But anyway,
Yeah.
okay. So for listeners who may not know about local color, I feel like people hear flower hub and sometimes they picture just a flower shop or a flower market, but what you've created is bigger. So walk us through what your process is. How does it work?
So we are in fact a flower shop. I mean, Local Color Flowers is a flower shop. We are a design studio. We are lots of other things. But one piece of what we do is we're open to the public, to our community 1 day a week for retail sales. Um, so that is more of a traditional, although the space doesn't look traditional, more of a traditional model of just selling flowers, selling designs, things like that. We do source all of our flowers locally, so everything comes from farms within 100 miles of Baltimore. Um, we do weddings and events. We're doing a little bit less of that now, just as we transition into some more online education with our newsletter and our YouTube videos and our online community Flower More. Um,
Has been
but we,
huge. Your education pieces are huge. And I think what I really like about your format and style with the things that I've
Mhm.
studied is I really love that they're approachable and they make sense. It's
Thank you.
not it's not something that's confusing and you don't go really fast. It's things that make sense and are approachable no matter what level you are.
Sure. I mean, we really try to be focused on that. Coming up in flowers, I learned from flower farmers pretty much everything I know about flowers. And I did not have a background in flowers. So I literally knew nothing. I mean, I was coming in as a complete blank slate. And so many farmers um, took time, took energy to make sure that I understood the industry and growing and harvesting and post-harvest care and marketing and selling. And so much of what I do now is really to honor those people that spent time with me coming up. So education is it's still just a huge piece of what we do. So we're doing retail, we're doing events. I do write a newsletter. I do weekly YouTube videos. I host an online community called Flower More, which is really for flower farmers, gardeners, and beginner designers that want to get better at sourcing local flowers, designing with local flowers, and having businesses around local flowers. Um, but a lot of my work too is just like working with farmers week to week. We buy from maybe 8 to 10 growers a week, depending on the season. Um, we also work with farmers to connect them with other farmers because one great thing about the local flower industry is that people really work together well. I worked in the vegetable sort of in part of growing for a while, and the vegetable farmers were not quite as collaborative as the flower farmers were. So a lot of work is, I'm buying from a grower this week, and she has a sale to somebody else that she needs something for, and I'm buying from another grower who has that. And so the connecting point is our shop where growers will drop things off, other growers will pick things up. Um, so we have tried to become sort of a central location in Baltimore for people to make those connections. Um, and it's been great. We work with about 40 growers overall through the year, depending on the season. Um, but weekly, I would say, yeah, about 8 to 10 per week. Um, yeah.
Wow. It must be neat too to see kind of the different growing styles. I, when I definitely first started with everything and first started growing, it felt very, I didn't know who to ask questions to. I wasn't sure, is it safe to ask those questions? Is it okay?
Right.
But as you said, the flower group, we're nice to each other.
Totally. Yeah.
Like and if you have a pest, a disease, a problem, and anything, it's super easy to be like, "Hey, I need help with this."
Mhm.
Where if you go to extension, a lot of the times they're like, I don't know, I don't have that knowledge." That's kind of how I stumbled into some of the connections that I've made in the Cut
Mhm.
Flowers Association is just, "Hey, I have this thing that's happening. Can somebody help me, please? Because I can't find an answer." So
Yeah. And that's one of the, I think, the big differences between now and 30 years ago is that, with the start of the ASCFG, which is the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers, about
if you
30
just
years
rip
ago.
that out, I have to think about it before I say that. I'm always
I've
like,
been a member for almost 20 years and have done a lot of work with them. So and I write a quarterly article for them. So I'm
okay,
more in tune with them.
okay.
Um, so, with the ASCFG in our region, the Maryland Cut Flower Growers Association has been meeting for almost 30 years as well. Um, there's just a lot more resources now to help flower farmers, help designers. And that is sort of also where we're trying to put some of our efforts is in our online community. What we have found is that there are a lot of resources now, which is great, different from it was before for growers to learn to grow. There is not as many resources for growers who want to learn to design. The floral design industry is there are more barriers to entry than you would hope. And so farmers finding support in learning to design with their own flowers, either for fun or to add value added products to their farms, whether that's weddings or design classes or things like that.
Even
We
bouquets, even your farmer's
totally,
market bouquets,
yep,
trying to
we
figure
spend a
out
lot of time talking about farmers market bouquets
trying
in
to
our
figure out the ratio and the balance and the perspectives, and that all you have to do backwards. You can't
yeah,
grow the flowers and then put them together. You have to know what
right.
and I that was one of the things that when we first started just 10 years ago,
Hmm.
it was, I'm going to grow flowers. Well, you wholesale or retail. And it was like, I want to do both. And everybody was like, you can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean I can't do that? Why can't I do that? So I just
Right.
did it. I just did it. I
Yeah.
just grew flowers. My daughter was the design person and the whole thing has kind of been we stumbled into it.
Mhm.
And if I had the information today that I didn't
Right.
have then, oh my gosh, it would be so different, so different.
Right. Because you can streamline, right? You can skip over the years of I grew this, but I didn't have the right audience for it. Or I have this audience who's really excited about my work and I'm not growing the right stuff.
Right.
Or, I
And
really am
timing.
great at design and maybe I should have, started that earlier. I mean, there's a lot of that. And so
Yeah.
that's really why we started the community to try to focus in on helping farmers just really get better at design, so that they can take advantage of those. Again, not just for business, I mean, for hobbies
Mhm.
too. Every month we
Mhm.
have a monthly design challenge. So our design challenges are often just for fun, but they also can be for business and for sale. So just trying to help farmers who spend a lot of time growing beautiful things, but often don't feel like they have the confidence to put them together in a way that they feel like is useful to them.
I also feel like it's hard too because when you're first starting and you're like, okay, I'm going to grow flowers, and then they all bloom, and you're like, okay, I have flowers, and then it's like, well, do I have enough? Do I have like what is considered wholesale? Like, is
Mhm.
it 50 stems, 100 stems, 500 stems? And then
Right.
who do you talk to try to there's so much information, and I feel like many of the listeners on the podcast, they're
Mhm.
gardeners, but there's also the stay-at-home mom who wants to maybe just have
Mhm.
flowers for a roadside stand, or the
Totally.
who wants just some summer income, or just that
Yeah.
really passionate flower person who wants to be able to make bouquets and give them away.
Yeah.
So if you want to find a hub or you want to be part of that, I feel like it's a little intimidating to be like, well, they're the professionals. And
Right.
I don't know about you, but I'm always like, I'm not. I just grow flowers and I love it.
Right. I think that's also why I feel like our community, I mean, of course I'm biased, but is really special because we um, really do feel like everybody is invited and
Flowers.
everybody, no matter what level you're at, if you, I mean, we have people in our community who are floral enthusiasts who've never grown a flower before in their life. They love to design just for fun at home. We have people that, since we started the community a year and a half ago, have learned design through our sort of classes and online resources and have now started doing weddings, who are now selling to florists.
Awesome.
So we're really trying to meet people where they are and not, I always tell a story when I first started doing weddings. I went to like a wedding vendor event and we had just started and there were some florists there and I introduced myself and they said, "Oh, what kind of work do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm starting this flower business. It's going to be all local flowers." And I remember like there was like they honestly like laughed like in my face, and they were like, "It'll never work. Like it will never." And it was like that moment of like, "Oh, like the imposter syndrome is so strong for me right now. Like I have a day job in construction. Like, what am I doing? Why am I telling these people that I'm going to
Yeah.
be a florist? Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm really aware of that and really want to make people feel like
Welcome.
There is no barrier.
Yeah.
There's no dumb question. There's no it's too early for me. Like we really try to just invite everybody in. We've done that in person at our shop for years. Um, and now just in the last couple of years have transitioned that online so that we really can reach a wider group of people.
You have a top 10 list. I feel like on Instagram, it's spring, and everywhere I look, it's like my top 10, my top 10, my top 10. Can I just give you five and you guys figure out the other five? I think that's
Right,
going to be
right.
fine because there's hundreds of flowers to pick from. And
Yep.
I think it goes back to my earlier statement of you have to plan.
Yeah.
I took the floret course when I first
Uh-huh.
started because I was like, I need info. I have an undergraduate degree in horticulture. Man, I
Uh-huh.
can grow. But when it came down to trying to figure out the ratios, and I think the most impactful thing for me was in the back, it had three different design setups of
Mhm.
you want to grow this bouquet, this is what's in it. And I was like,
Yep.
okay, so I want to do this many bouquets. So I did the math backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the math was great, but Mother Nature had a different plan. Things
Of course.
bloomed all at different times. Some were short, some were tall. I was like, okay. It was
Sometimes you can't control what nature does.
I was so excited for the phlox. It was a little annual phlox. It was like a really peachy color, and I was so excited, and it grew like 3 inches, and I
Oh
was like,
yeah. Like
I
the
can't
cherry caramel one is like a teeny tiny little.
can't do it."
Yeah.
I was like, "No." So I
Yeah.
scrapped a bunch of that and just was like, "Okay, I've grown so many varieties. I've pulled things that don't work.
Mhm.
Godisha for us, we pulled that this year. Godisha is
Mhm.
gorgeous. Absolutely love it. But it blooms at a funky time. It doesn't have good vase life. It doesn't hold up in bouquet work. Like it's an awesome flower. Plant it and love it in your garden.
Mhm.
It's you have to make some of those truly
Totally.
difficult business decisions as well. Because at the
Yeah.
bottom line, the end of the day, you have that bottom line in it. It has to work.
Yeah, absolutely. We always try to think of things as, we have sort of six elements that we always talk about when we're talking about design. So for us, and not always, we don't always have access to these things. Like there are times when we don't have any foliage available. There's times when there's no line flowers available. But we always try to think of, foliage, line flower, focal flower, secondary focal, filler, bits and pieces. Those are sort of our elements that we think of for design. And it
Right.
doesn't matter really to me, honestly, if it's okay, line flower. I need a line flower. So it's either snapdragons or delphinium or larkspur or stock or lupin, or it doesn't matter. A line flower does a thing in a design, and any line flower will work.
And
Um,
sometimes grasses in the fall,
yeah,
some
for sure.
lifesavers.
Yeah. So we try to think of them not as like, I have to have this flour or I have to have this exact recipe, but sort of these are the hopes of the elements for design. And if we can get close to having those, then that's great.
Right. That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Okay. So here's the big question, and I'm sure you
Mhm.
get asked this all the time. I feel like I get this question too.
Mhm.
The future of local flowers. If you
Yeah.
look ahead 5 to 10 years, what excites you about the future of the local flower movement?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, right? Like there are, first off, so many growers, which is fantastic. And I know some growers would say, oh, I don't want to overwhelm the system or I don't want there to be, a glut of local flowers, but I just think there's plenty of work for all of us. So more growers, more designers that are choosing to buy local, maybe not all local, but some local. And that is a huge step in the right direction. Also, consumers, certainly younger consumers,
Mhm.
demanding um, more sustainable flowers, more transparency in the things that they're buying. They want to know who grew them, how they were grown. And
It's
the
a story.
more people demand that,
Mhm.
the more. I think the industry will respond to that. I'm also really excited. The thing that I think that I'm probably most excited about is growers who have the sort of vision to start chipping away at that 80% import number in a way that is meaningful. Because at least here on the East Coast, there are a lot of growers who are working to have a, I don't know what you would call it, sort of a East Coast connector for local flowers. So, um, farmers as far south as Florida, who I met with over the summer or over the winter, are looking to move flowers up the East Coast into the southern states. There are growers in the mid-Atlantic that are looking to um, meet up with those farmers and bring Maryland product further south. There's Philadelphia growers that are looking to reach into New England and help those farmers in New England fill a hole when they don't have flowers. And so maybe more of a regional look and more of a collaborative look between farmers in regions, I think is really exciting. And I think it will help get more local flowers in people's hands. And that is always our goal, always our intent. Um, so to me, that is really exciting. And I just think, the more people work together, I know that sounds really like Pollyanna-ish, but there
Oh,
is just no uh, there is no better work than collaborating with farmers and florists together to make local flowers more accessible to people.
I also feel that the term farmer has started to shift. I feel
Mhm.
like for so long it was the image of the man, the woman, and the pitchfork, and that's what a
Sure.
farmer was. And that has shifted. We, as in this generation, as well as women, and so many things that have
Mhm.
happened, and the movement for sustainability, the movement for healthier eating, the movement for local, all of those things, we're going back to like who we actually are,
Yeah,
connect with the land, grow things, have fun with it. And I think consumers are starting to understand it's not normal to have an orange in August. That's
right.
outside of the season. So,
Yeah,
what are some of the choices that, I can make that are a little bit different? So,
totally.
and
Yeah.
it's not normal to have an orange in Maryland either, but
Not here. Not
definitely.
here.
Not. Okay. So, last little bit, I'm going to do just a quick rapid fire couple questions.
Oh, yes. Fun.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Um, all right, ready?
Yep.
Okay. Favorite flower?
Tulip.
Really?
Oh, yes, by far.
Really?
Yes, they beat all other flowers to me.
Interesting. Is
Yep.
that okay, this is not rapid fire, sorry, but
I'm
is
happy to explain my love of tulips.
yes,
I mean, I
they
love
have
them for
great
a lot of
vase
reasons.
life,
They have
and they come in a wide range of
probably the
flowers.
first flower that I ever really engaged with. Like, we
Huh,
had tulips growing up at my house. Um, for design work, there are so many different shades, colors, shapes,
mm,
styles of tulips. Their season in Maryland is really long, so we can start getting tulips in December, still have them at Mother's Day, which just makes my life easy because I know that we'll have a focal flower for a long stretch of time. Um, they're super easy to grow. It is a great beginner flower for people who are interested in getting into gardening, even if they know zero. It's the first flower I ever grew. I knew nothing. I read the directions on the bag and they worked. So I feel like they are a really accessible, easy flower for people. Um, I just love them. I love everything about them.
interesting, okay,
Yeah.
that was not what I would have thought, okay.
Yep.
What flower do you wish more florists used?
Um, I mean, there's so many seasonal flowers that I think that traditional florists or conventional florists who source conventionally don't know about or don't use. Mock orange is one, which, it just has like a very small window in Maryland, but it's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, Fragrant abelia in the spring is something that we get
Mm.
locally that I don't ever see florists using. Um,
It has such a nice hang to it too. Like it
Really
just,
nice.
yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
soft. Hmm. Interesting. Mm.
So I don't know. Those are two. I just think like so many seasonal things that um, if florists gave them a try, I don't know, scoop scabiosa. I
Yeah.
think a lot of florists look at it and say, oh, it's too expensive for such a little thing. I don't know what it does. I don't know how it works, but there's just, or heirloom mums. I don't see a lot of conventional florists using heirloom mums. They use like
Mm.
the more
There's no way it
conventional.
comes from.
Yeah, but like the fancy mums, I don't know. So all those.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think is the most underrated cut flower?
Carnations. Uh, I love carnations. We have a winter grower that we work with called Hendrix Flowers in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. They're about 90 miles from us. And they're fourth generation flower farmers. And they were originally carnation growers in central Pennsylvania. Their family 100 years ago, they grow in glass greenhouses and
Wow.
they are growing heirloom carnations that are fragrant. Some varieties that nobody else in the country still has. They're the last
Wow.
um, they're the last uh, carnation grower on the East Coast. And carnations, I think they're underrated because the thing that it's not that people don't like how they look, it's that there is some sort of connotation to them that they're grocery store flowers or they're cheap
Right.
flowers or that they're dyed flowers. But carnations themselves, especially the heirloom varieties, are fragrant. They're very long lasting in the vase. They come in a great range of colors. And so I think that the issue is more just like a mental block against them. I love using them. I love telling the story of carnations and how, we're still holding on to those carnation growers here in Maryland. There's some still in Colorado. There's a few in California. But yeah, carnations definitely, I think, are the most underrated.
Interesting. I feel like carnations fell into the normal in when you get, as you said,
Sure.
grocery store flowers. I feel like
Yeah,
people,
because
oh,
the issue was that
carnation.
when we sort of transitioned to flowers being grown in South America, the big three flowers that were grown there were roses, carnations, and mums. And so we lost most of the carnation growers in the country at that time. Um,
And ended up with
Carnations
less
coming
varieties.
in we lost many, many, many of the heirloom varieties that were grown, those fragrant varieties. And when they came back into the country, they came back in as a commoditized flower. So they were coming into grocery stores and wholesalers in the mass market industry. And so people just saw them as cheap. Um, so yeah, carnations, I have a soft spot for carnations.
They last. Their vase
Yeah.
life is incredible. They dry well. It's an
Yep.
incredibly versatile flower. I mean,
Yeah.
nice to the carnation.
Yes, exactly.
All right, one more question, I promise.
Yeah.
Best advice for new either florist or flower farmers. You pick which one you wanna tackle.
Um, let's see. Honestly, one of the things that I learned pretty early on from other farmers and florists was to resist the urge, and it's much harder now with social media. Resist the urge to compare yourself to other people, whether you see them on social media, you see them in your community, you think they're further along, they're making nicer designs, they're doing better, growing something you're trying to grow. We are all on our own singular journeys, and um, finding our own community and finding our own customers and finding what we're good at. Some of that in the beginning is um,
Word.
keeping yourself focused on your own work and your own journey. Definitely finding a community of people to be sharing that journey with, but really resisting the urge, whatever that means. And sometimes it's crazy stuff. Like I have a friend who's a flower farmer, and she can't follow other flower farmers on social media. I get it. She just can't. It's too distracting to see what everybody else is doing and to think like I should be at this level, or it's just really be in community with people, share knowledge, share information, share experiences, but really resist the urge to compare ourselves to other people.
I agree. I don't think that matters. I don't think it matters in any business what
Sure.
you're doing. That applies in everything, and it's
Yeah,
so hard. It's
it's
so, so
really
hard.
hard. Hard for all of us, whether we're new or experienced. It's really hard.
It is hard. Social media is like such a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it can be a great tool, and it can
Yeah,
really be very
yeah,
challenging.
it can be a hot mess. So,
Yes.
Ellen, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, I'm
I
happy to be here.
I can't thank you enough. This has been an awesome conversation. I know what you have built with your own business and local color flowers has been something that other people aspire to do. And I know that just having the conversation with you just brings home even more how much of a real person you are. And that is awesome.
Honestly, a regular real person who loves flowers and wants to, make that love accessible to other people.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Perfect,
Yep,
perfect, perfect. Awesome. Well, if they want to find you, see you, follow you on
yep,
social media, will you
sure,
tell us where we can do all of
sure.
those things?
Yep. One of our hubs is Ellen Frost Flowers. That's sort of our main ellenfrost.com. On there, you can find our newsletter. You can find links to our community. And if you're interested, I'd be happy to share a discount link for the listeners if they want to
Cool.
try out the community at a discount. I can share that with you. And then the shop, that's sort of local color flowers on all the social media feeds. You can find, our hours and how to buy flowers and things like that at local color flowers. But ellenfrost.com is really the hub of all things other flowers.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, guys, thank you for joining us on the Flower Files. If you love this episode, make sure you subscribe, share it with a flower loving friend, and tag us on Instagram so we can see what resonated with you. And remember, whether you're growing your first seed or building your flower business, there is always room for more flowers in the world. So until
Amen
next
to that.
time.